Cosmonaut Quickie!
So Suicide Squad 3 Peacemaker is finally finished, and I think it was okay. I think that for me this series was a little overhyped, and since I like to watch these shows when they're fully released, I spent the last month or two listening to you guys say, "Marcus, please watch Peacemaker, Peacemaker is so good," and you'd think that this is like the greatest show in the world or something. Now firstly, I will say that I do appreciate that this show does have a unique tone and identity when compared to other superhero shows. This one definitely has a lot more personality than most of the stuff on Disney+. Now sometimes I do think that James Gunn likes his style a little too much, especially when it comes to music, but in this show I appreciate that he used a unique genre of music to give this show a different vibe than his usual stuff. The 80s glam rock is very fitting, and the opening sequence is, unironically, the best part of the show. So yes, this is most certainly 110% a James Gunn production, and it feels like it, but that isn't always a good thing. The first thing that jumped out at me in the first 3 or so episodes is that this show is trying really hard to be funny, and I have to say most of the time, the jokes did not land for me. What it comes down to is that I don't think the James Gunn writing style really suits a TV show. Instead of packing his jokes tightly into a 2-hour movie, we have 8 40-minute episodes that feature jokes that are drawn out for way too long. There are a lot of times where I laughed thinking that the joke was over, and then it kept going. It made me regret laughing. And normally, I really don't have a big problem looking past bad jokes. If the story's good and the characters are strong, then it's not a big deal to me. But in the early stages of this show, the characters aren't well defined yet, and the story hasn't really hooked you. So all you have is jokes for 3 episodes with a little bit of plot. It's seriously jokes galore. It's a fucking funny factory. Sometimes it makes me feel like James Gunn writes jokes like he was in prison for 10 years and he's just now catching up on some memes that we no longer think are funny. There's a very overdrawn bit about the Berenstain Bears Mandela effect. Like, come on, man, it's 2022. This joke is ancient now. I'm not kidding when I say that in the first half of this show, I was considering turning it off and tweeting to you guys that I'm sorry, no review, I just didn't like it. But then I took a little break and I came back for the second half of the show, and I have to admit, it does get a lot better. The jokes definitely peter off as the show goes on, and after episode 4, we get a lot of the strong character moments that we associate with James Gunn. He's just really good at taking pathetic D-list comic book characters and making them charming and enjoyable to watch. Even the side characters get a lot better by this point. In the first few episodes, I absolutely hated Vigilante because his jokes just never seemed to end, and I couldn't get a good grasp on his personality. But when the show really hits its stride and the episodes are more fast-paced, he really grew on me, and by the end, I think he's my favorite character. I was actually laughing at his jokes, too. It also goes without saying that John Cena is very good in this show. Even when I was cringing, I couldn't help but admit that his enthusiasm for this character really shines through in his performance. He's a lot of fun in this show, and he's definitely carrying most of it on his back. Though I will say that this show really reminded me why I liked him in the Suicide Squad. In that movie, every character was unique, and it was fun to see them interact with each other. They're all crazy supervillains, but they're different kinds of supervillains, and they're all a different brand of crazy. This show is just about a bunch of black ops guys who all make the same jokes, and 2 lunatics that also make the same jokes. So the writing can feel very samey. But like I said, the show manages to make it work in the end. By episode 6, I was actually really enjoying myself, and I was surprised because I really wasn't before this. I think episode 6 is definitely where the show hits its stride for me. That's where Gunn's real talent for writing comes out. Peacemaker has a really good character arc, and I liked seeing these characters that I didn't really care for initially as they slowly develop a friendship. In the same way Peacemaker has to grow on his teammates, the show kinda grew on me. The second half of this show moves at a much quicker pace, so the jokes don't really have time to overstay their welcome. I also was really into the story when it started kicking in. I genuinely could not predict where it was gonna go, and that's something that I can't say about other superhero shows. And goddammit, I really gotta say, I love how James Gunn ends his stories. The final shot always encapsulates the theme and purpose of the story, and it is no different here. So yeah, I really did not vibe with the first few episodes. But I really liked the last few. I really appreciate good performances and a creative premise and strong character moments. And it also helps that the action choreography is really fun and kinetic. So in the end, yeah, I can excuse bad jokes a lot more when the rest of the package is on point. And this is probably the most that my score has fluctuated while watching a show. At one point, I really thought I was going to give this a 5 out of 10, but then it started to slide up to a 6. And honestly, I think the last 3 episodes and the awesome finale saved the show enough for me to give it a nice, comfortable 7 out of 10.